I want to talk a little bit about the symbolism that I've found while reading about this story in 3rd Nephi chapter 9. I think it's important to realize that the people had been living in darkness since the major destruction. And during this time, we read in the scriptures in this chapter that they were crying, they were screaming, they were obviously sad. Entire cities had been destroyed, cities going into the ocean, mountains being placed on top of cities. And this was a major event that many of the people that survived, as family members, were probably impacted and lost or killed. And these people were living in a darkness that's more than just a physical darkness, but also a symbolic darkness as well. And I think part of that symbolic darkness could be the fact that they were more righteous. The ones that survived were more righteous than the ones that perished, but it does not say that they were completely righteous. So they were also probably in a type of spiritual darkness, obviously a darkness caused by tribulation or suffering, and also this darkness caused by the physical darkness, where they actually had no light. I think it's important for us to realize that in our lives, we will find ourselves, if we aren't currently finding ourselves, in times where we face this symbolic darkness, this spiritual darkness, or even this darkness that comes from suffering. They spent 3 days in this type of darkness. I'm sure that if we analyzed each of their lives, we'd find that they had times of years of darkness, months of darkness, weeks of darkness, days of darkness, just like we do. And I think it's important for us to realize that this story has significance for us in our lives, being taken from a place where we are in darkness to being placed in a place where we are given light. I find it beautiful that the words in the story are said that they heard the voice of the Lord. And that's really the beginning, even though they're still in the darkness, that's really the beginning of them coming out of darkness. And I think it's important for us to realize that Jesus Christ is the one who can really bring us from the darkness in our own lives. He's the one that can take us into the light through what he did for us. We know from the church and from the doctrine that's been taught to us that he suffered not only for our sins, but also all of the things that we are going to suffer, so that he can help us go through those and understand us to complete sense. So Jesus Christ knows how to bring us from our dark times. So I find in this story a great symbolism of us being in darkness, just like the Nephites were in darkness, and us suffering and not knowing when the suffering is going to be ending, or not knowing when our lack of faith or our doubts are going to finally be answered. But what I do know and what I do believe with all my heart is that with faith in Jesus Christ, he will always bring us out of those times of darkness in our lives. And through bringing us out of those times of darkness, we can find joy. I personally believe that we will all go through times of darkness, whether it's for a few days or for a few years. And I think we'll have times of light. And I think those times of darkness will come back. But I think the difference is that if we have faith in Jesus Christ, and if we continue with that hope in him, he will lead us through those every single time. And it doesn't matter how many times we're in darkness, we will always be led to the light. And I do believe that with all my heart.